After all the volatility, after everything that happened during the month of April, you know what? We didn't end that bad. So let's summarize April and let's look at the week that we just finished, all the dramas around the tariffs, other news. We're going to talk about earnings, and of course, we're going to get ready for next week. Ready? Let's start. I'm Micha Stocks, and on this channel, we talk about the stock market. We try to summarize the week and to better understand things that are happening in the stock market. If you're new to the channel, it would be amazing if you can subscribe to the channel and, of course, turn notifications on so you'll be notified every time a new video is posted. Summarizing April, a lot of volatility. Nasdaq was down more than 10% for the month, and then came the turnaround. As you can see, we ended the month of April with the Nasdaq up 1.5%, S&P down only 0.76%. And why am I saying only? Because in the early parts of April, we were down more than 10% on the S&P for the month. Look how we ended. Russell still negative 0.23, and Dow, worst performer out of the major averages. When we look at the indices, you can see them. Energy down 13%, healthcare down 3%, and materials down 2.4%. But you can see technology up, consumer staples up, industrial up, utilities up. Very, very interesting April month. When we look at the crypto market, that's where money was hiding. 14% for the Bitcoin, and anyone that invested in Bitcoin at the beginning of the month was very, very happy. Ethereum, not as much. When we look at gold, silver, crude oil, and natural gas, you can see that except gold, all the rest were negative on the month. And that's also a surprise with everyone talking about precious metals. That brings us to the Magnificent 7 or the Wonderful 8, with Broadcom up 15% for the month of April, Tesla up 8.8%, Microsoft up, Google up, while Meta down 4.7% and Apple down 4.3%. All this on the month of April. By the way, this current week, because we had only 2 days, I didn't want to summarize them. Microsoft shot up after their earnings and Meta as well. This brings us to the news of the week, and I will start actually with a chart. What you're seeing right now is Japanese candlesticks, which represent the price movement of the day. The only reason why I'm showing this is because the S&P 500 had 8 consecutive green days. This is the best performance the S&P had in years. And years, I'm talking even pre-COVID. Yes, you know, there was a stock market pre-COVID. 8 consecutive years. 8 consecutive days. Usually after 5 to 6 days, we do get a correction. And we might get a correction. That's true. But right now, this is a very strong performance out of the S&P 500. And when you look at the stock market for the week, this is how it looked like. Most of it green, except specific companies that their reports, their earnings were not as good as expected, and the market didn't like that. Whether it's Google, Eli Lilly, Qualcomm, United Health, and ExxonMobil. All the rest, as you can see, a lot of green on the screen. So what did we have this week? Earnings. Let's try to summarize them in a way that will be easy to understand. So we had 4 Magnificent 7s. We had Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, and Apple. We'll start with the latter ones, the ones that reported on Thursday. Amazon and Apple. Both very impacted out of the tariffs. Apple saying that they might be impacted by around $800 million because of supply chain. Amazon does not know how to quantify. Most of what we heard from companies this week is their lack of visibility. Now, one company during the week took it too far, which is Snapchat. Snapchat said that they have lack of visibility. Well, you don't have a supply chain, Snapchat. Why do you have lack of visibility? Microsoft and Meta also reported very good reaction from the market. Both stocks were up. Robinhood reported their earnings and others. Consumers seem strong. Companies seem strong. Visibility seems very low because no one knows what the rate of tariffs would be. During Friday, we got this headline saying Beijing is weighing the fentanyl offer to the U.S. That will, of course, reduce some of the tariffs and open up a negotiation between China and the US. Everyone was waiting for it, and hopefully this will start putting things on track to get some kind of agreements with different countries. Alibaba unveiled their new fast delivery service amid heightened demand. Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba said that the auto tariffs are absolutely unacceptable. That's part of negotiation, at least as I see it at this time. Part of negotiation between all the countries and the US. The AAII, American Association of Individual Investors, very bearish. 59% bearish, only 20% bullish. This is a crazy, crazy number, considering that April was green for the NASDAQ and almost green for the S&P 500. The level of negativity is crazy. Look how lack of visibility creates negativity. Crazy, crazy, crazy. On Friday, Take-Two Interactive, through Rockstar Games, postponed the release of GTA 6, Grand Theft Auto 6. This, of course, made Take-Two Interactive stock to drop 6% on the news. Trump says billions of dollars pour in from tariffs, and also he keeps saying that the Fed needs to lower its rate. The reason why he's pushing it again is because the Fed is conveying this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and on Wednesday we will get the announcement, which will probably be no reduction of rates, at least as of now. GDP came negative this week, fell 0.3%. A quick reminder that by the definitions that everyone agreed on, 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP means that we are in recession. Are we in recession right now? Probably we are in some kind of psychological recession. Psychological means that people are thinking about it, but there's no real recession because consumer is still strong. Then why did we get the negative GDP print? Mainly because of gold and things like that. But it's clear that companies are afraid right now. That's for sure. They're mainly because of the uncertainty. And if we talked about lowering rates, Donald Trump says gasoline just broke $1.98 per gallon. I don't think there's a state or a gas station that sells at $1.98, but never mind. Lowest in years, groceries, etc. He wants the Fed to lower rates, but the Fed is not going to lower rate because the Fed doesn't have visibility, just like everyone else. Google is opening a position at ASTS. They want to also dabble in the satellite communication. L3 Harris tapped to modify a Qatari jet. The story is this. New Air Force One is being delayed by Boeing. Boeing is, as you know, isn't performing as best. And Donald Trump is fed up with the old Air Force One. So he wants to take a Qatari jet and let L3 Harris fix it. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. We will see. Block, or XYZ is the ticker, Square in the past, said that their Cash App card or customers using their Cash App card cut back on non-essentials like travel and media, and that might be signs of a recession. I think that's more a sign of Cash App being not relevant, but everyone has their own understanding of the numbers. Schwab says that during the month of April, thousands were nearing margin calls, if not having margin calls. That shows the impact of margins and, of course, volatility. Trump administration signed a deal with Ukraine on resources and hope that would be the framework for other deals as well. JD Vance is in advanced talks with India to get them to sign the first tariff for the first trade discussion between them. Hopefully things will start sort themselves on the tariff front. That would create a lot of visibility versus the invisibility that we have today. Donald Trump alerts that anyone that buys Iranian oil will get sanctioned. Mainly that is focused on China, the only company that does that. CVS is going to boost access to Novo Nordisk. That is against, of course, Eli Lilly. That will not be boosted access to. That's why Eli Lilly ended the week red versus Novo that ended the week green. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang said that China is not behind in the AI race, and China is very close. He keeps pushing the US government not to let go of the investments needed. President Trump also said that Canadian Prime Minister is coming to visit him. I think Tuesday or Wednesday we're going to have tariff talks. Hopefully, again, another company would this week get something in the books. Google wants Gemini to be in the iPhone. As you know, the default search engine on iPhones is Google. Google is paying $30 billion, if I'm not mistaken, for Apple to include their search engine. And if they stop paying, or Gemini would not be part of it and OpenAI would, that would be problematic to both companies. Meta and Microsoft say that between 30 to 50% of their code right now is being generated by AI, by bots that are doing their code. Very interesting. I don't think it would impact people that are working in R&D. I think that R&D as a whole would change, and companies would be able to produce more and ship more capabilities rather than reduce their workforce. At least that's my perspective. Palantir partners with Nautilus, or actually Nautilus partners with Palantir to boost sustainability on their aircraft production. Huawei starts shipping their AI chip that is supposed to compete with NVIDIA, with a ban that NVIDIA has on China. China doesn't have an alternative. Taiwan Semi is breaking ground on their third chip manufacturing in Arizona. Waymo and Toyota are going to launch a strategic partnership to bring Waymo's autonomous platform to personal vehicles. They're saying that 2026 they might have cars on the road. We shall see. It's very interesting because Waymo's way of doing autonomous driving is totally different than the Tesla one. They're geofenced. They need to be in a specific area. It's not the same. And of course, it's a very costly solution because it requires LiDAR and other radar capabilities. Amazon, this was a very interesting week for Amazon. I'll tell you the story. Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, on the day, Amazon says that they're going to add the line item on every cell that says the impact of tariffs, the cost of them. Trump blew a fuse when he heard that, called Jeff Bezos, said, "What are you doing? Why didn't you actually do the same thing when there was inflation, blaming Biden?" And that, of course, made Amazon turn and say, we're not going to do it. The power of a president not being involved at all. President Xi said he wants Shanghai to be called a city, to become a global tech innovation hub for Chinese. The fight for AI, the fight for AI, the fight for AI. Everyone wants to lead. Walmart told Chinese suppliers to resume shipments. I don't think they know what the tariffs would be, but they assume that in the next 30 days they will know, and that's why the time for a vessel to come from China to the US is about 30 days. So they're betting on it and saying, you know what, let them start the shipment. Anyway, it's going to take 30 days. At least that's how I think it's going on there. That's what I think is going on there. Boeing debt is no longer immediate risk, and that's why their bond are not going to be junk bonds, at least by the S&P Global rating. IBM pledges $150 billion to boost the U.S. tech growth computer manufacturing, and Microsoft scales back on their data center investment. A lot of things we had this week. Next week, even more. The biggest earnings week, we get companies like Palantir, Ford, Celsius, Datadog, Marriott, Supermicro, AMD, Rivian, Uber, Disney, Novo Nordisk, Unity, ARM, Carvana, AppLovin, Peloton, Shopify, Coinbase, The Trade Desk, and more. The biggest earnings week by number of companies, not by market cap, going to be very, very volatile for the week. And also, we are having on Tuesday and Wednesday Fed meetings, and Wednesday at 2 p.m., we are going to get the Fed interest rate decision, where we're going to hear from the Fed that they're not going to raise rates. Sorry, I spoiled it. They're not going to raise rates. If they are going to lower rates, if they are going to lower rates, that's going to take the market by surprise. The market right now has, I think, 98 or 99% that they're not going to reduce rates. That's where we are. Okay, how do we get prepared for next week? 8 consecutive days of gains, we talked about it. Now, the issues that we have currently on the S&P 500 are the following. During the rapid increase in price, we created two gaps. These gaps usually have a tendency to be closed. 80% of the gaps are closed. And actually, when we go to US 500, which is future contracts, usually, meaning except this gap, there are no gaps. Why? Because the contracts close all the gaps, which means that we have a gap that hasn't been closed about 6.6% from where we are today. This usually means that we're getting close to some kind of resistance that might, and I don't know what the news would be, and I don't know how and when and if it's going to happen, but I think everyone needs to be prepared for some kind of a correction. 6% is a very big correction. I can tell you that some stocks, it means that they might go down by 10 to 15 to 20%. So what are the levels that we need to look for this week? Let's look at the S&P 500, SPX. So we have resistance around 5,700, 5,770, and 5,780. That's kind of where we have a resistance. We have gap around 5,580, and lower to that, that's the open gap at around 5,300. So it's been a good ride for the last 8 days. The S&P will not keep on going day after day after day. We can also see that there's a lower volume day after day, which means that the buyers are starting to dwindle, and we might see that correction coming. If you enjoyed everything, you can smash that like button. You can share with your friends. I'm Micha Stocks saying bye-bye. And a quick reminder, nothing here is financial advice. Forgot to tell you at the beginning, but now I say it now. Nothing is financial advice. Bye-bye.